I thought my neighbor was just creepy. Then I saw his basement. It started with a missing cat. My neighbor's daughter Lucy was in tears on the porch one night, telling me that Mr. Caro down the street had probably taken her cat. He's always digging in his yard at night, she whispered, like she wasn't supposed to say it out loud. I laughed it off. Caro was weird, sure, like any mid-60s man who barely spoke and always wore velvet gloves. But everyone has their quirks. I had moved into my grandmother's old house just 6 months before. She left it to me after she passed. It was an old craftsman-style home in a quiet town that felt safer than the city I had lived in my whole life. I was only 27 and living alone for the first time. There was a kind of peace in it, but at night the creaks felt louder, the shadows felt longer. And now, this thing with Caro was making the house feel a lot less like home. Then our mailman casually mentioned that Caro never accepts packages directly, saying, "I just leave him by the gate. Guy always opens the door after I drive off. Never seen him face to face." And once you hear something like that, you start noticing everything. Like how no one had seen his wife in over a year. Or how random people sometimes came and left his house at 3 a.m., their faces down, eyes vacant. So I knocked on his door, just to ask if he'd seen the cat. He smiled all polite-like and said no, but something felt off. His eyes didn't match his smile. He offered me tea. I declined. I joked to myself that I wasn't ready to die yet, but then he pushed a bit harder and said he insisted. I told him no thanks, and quickly walked away. Later that night, I noticed movement through the trees between our yards. Someone digging again. A flash of metal. I couldn't let it go. I started watching. I noticed patterns, the times visitors would arrive, always late, always silent. Sometimes I heard chanting. Once I heard music. Soft, eerie, like a lullaby seeping through walls. I told my friend Jonah about it. He laughed, said I'd been watching too many documentaries. Maybe. But then, one evening, Caro knocked on my door, said he found a cat in his garden that looked like Lucy's. He invited me over to check. It was the first time I'd been inside. The living room was too clean, too symmetrical. I couldn't help but think the guy had OCD. The air smelled like lavender and something else. Something metallic. It wandered through the back, he said. Must have been looking for food, so I brought him inside and gave him some. I followed him through the hallway. That's when I noticed the photo frames all over the walls. Every single one was turned inward facing the wall. He said, "I keep them that way because too many eyes watching makes the house feel heavy." We reached the kitchen. No cat, just a narrow stairwell leading down. He gestured, saying, "I think it ran down there." I hesitated and gripped the pepper spray in my bag. I wanted to tell him it was fine and I'd send Lucy over to check. But the thought of Lucy coming over and meeting with Caro instead made me feel sick. So I followed him downstairs, ready to aim straight for his eyes if he tried anything. The basement was dim, lit by dozens of candles. I thought it was empty, until I saw the silhouettes. A dozen people were sitting in rows, silent, eyes open but blank, like dolls left out in the rain. One woman turned to me smiling. "You're early." I froze and asked, "What the hell is this?" A man stood up slowly. "You'll understand soon." Another voice behind me said, "We all come here eventually." I backed up, tripping over the last step. My heart was pounding in my throat. I bolted up the stairs and out the front door without looking back. I went straight for my car and drove while calling the cops. I told them everything. They arrived an hour later. Caro let them in without hesitation, but the basement was empty. No candles, no people. I moved out a week later, packed everything, gone before sunrise. The only person I told was Lucy and her mom. I warned them that Caro had a cult of some kind and to stay away. I live in the city now, grateful for the loud, familiar noises. Sometimes I wonder, if I'd stayed even 1 minute longer, would I have been able to leave at all?